Do you remember that darkness? The morning dampness wrapping around your steel companion. Outside the window, the whisper of wind, a few shy drops tapping on the glass, like a gentle knock from the past. Your hand finds the key, cold, familiar, and slowly slides it in. A breath, a turn, the strained, reluctant screech of the starter, as if the car doesn't want to wake up. A moment, and then, a deep, guttural roar. The seat vibrates, the wheel comes alive. Yes, that sound, the uneven growl. Your hand pulls the choke, the tone changes, steadier now, but still with a rasp. Do you remember that smell? Gasoline, worn-up upholstery. This wasn't just starting an engine. It was a ritual, a dialogue. Every time your beauty came alive, you could feel her breathe. And with her, your morning came alive too. Because out there, beyond the misted glass, the road was waiting. If you grew up in those years, this isn't a story, it's a memory. There she is, your old beauty, finally finding the rhythm of the road. The fog on the windshield, like a haze of memories, slowly fades, revealing the world. And that world wasn't on a screen, no. It was in your hands, or in the hands of the one sitting beside you, the co-pilot, without whom no trip ever felt complete. Do you remember what it looked like? Huge, worn. Its folds were like the wrinkles of an old friend's face, each one holding 100 stories. Your fingers, or your co-pilot's, carefully unfolded that giant, rustling sheet, the old paper map, weathered and tired. Do you hear that sound? That wasn't just paper, it was the sound of horizons opening up. And that faint smell, old printing ink mixed with dust and past adventures, filling the cabin. Today you're used to the lifeless voice of a smartphone. Always right, always leading you by the shortest path, never wrong, never leaving room for doubt. But if you once held that map, you remember, the road wasn't just a line on a screen. It was a vast world, spreading out before you. Your heads bent together over the map on the dashboard, on your lap, or even on the hood if you needed a closer look. Okay, after the pub. Second roundabout. What's next? That was your voice, or maybe your companion's. Where's that damn turn? I know I saw it. The voice of the one holding the map, finger jabbing at the winding lines. It wasn't just directions. It was teamwork, little debates, sometimes funny arguments, ending in laughter when you finally found the right turn. And sometimes, yes, you got it wrong. Took the wrong exit, ended up on a dirt road leading nowhere, or straight to a surprise, an abandoned castle, or the perfect roadside pub hidden away from the world. That wasn't a mistake, that was adventure, that was the feature, not the bug, of the times. Every wrong turn became a new chapter in your road story. You weren't just going from point A to point B, you were living the road, with all its unpredictability and mystery. We've lost that art of shared navigation, lost those quiet, or not so quiet, conversations, as you searched for the way together. We no longer rely on intuition, on reading the landscape, on those subtle signs that only people can decode. Today's compass is a cold pixel on a screen. Back then, the compass was the touch of a finger on a map, the glance of a friend, and the whisper of wind through an open window. If you grew up in those years, this isn't just some old story, it's a tangible memory. And it smells of old paper, carrying the promise of roads unknown. Now, with the map folded and put away, your hand can't help but reach for the next source of road magic. Because what's an adventure without its soundtrack? Your steel companion now rolls confidently down the road, leaving behind faint shadows of the morning mist. The map is tucked away, but the adventure is only beginning, because what's a journey without its own soundtrack? Your hand, almost unconsciously, reaches for the dashboard, for that familiar knob, plastic, a little slippery, but instantly recognizable. Do you remember that soft click, when the radio came alive? At first, only static, white noise, as if the road itself was trying to speak its language, or the distant waves refused to surrender without a fight. You slowly turned the dial, through a sea of interference, catching fragments of voices, strange melodies, until, suddenly, the miracle happened. through the noise, as if from the soul of the road itself, it broke through. That song, maybe it was a raw guitar riff from Led Zeppelin, or the playful beat of T. Rex, or perhaps Queen, making your blood surge through your veins. You could hear that warm, tangible analog sound, with just a hint of hiss that made it feel alive. Today you have millions of songs at your fingertips, crystal clear, no static. But do you remember how it felt when you caught that station? It was like a hunt, a small personal triumph. And when it finally came through in all its glory, every beat seemed to sink into the car itself, syncing with the rhythm of your heart and the whisper of the tires on asphalt. Or maybe you were the kind who preferred your own soundtrack. Do you remember the click of a cassette sliding into place, with that tiny resistance before it locked in? Then, the faint hiss of the tape, just before the first notes of a favorite album. You could see the reels slowly turning behind the clear window, like the living heartbeat of your music. It was anticipation, it was magic, and when that track began, it wasn't just background, it became part of the landscape unfolding outside your window. Every bend in the road, every hill, every ray of sunlight or drop of rain was soaked in the melody you chose for that moment. It was your private concert, in your private space, shared only with the road and its secrets. We've lost that magic of waiting, of chasing the perfect sound that fit every curve. We've lost that intimate, analog conversation with music, when it didn't just play, but lived inside the car, breathing with you. Playlists today are convenient, yes, but back then, it was pure magic. It was the living, breathing soul of the road, resonating in every part of you. If you grew up in those years, this isn't just some story, it's a memory that still vibrates inside your soul. And as those familiar chords fill the cabin, you can't help but feel not only the music, but the car itself. It seems to breathe with you. And that feeling leads you, inevitably, to the next step, to the way you opened her to the world around you, instead of hiding from it. Your car rolls forward, and the sun, climbing higher, begins to press gently, yet persistently, through the glass. In today's cars, you just push a button and an invisible breeze adjusts the climate to perfection. But do you remember how it used to be? How your hand would instinctively reach for that old, sometimes a bit worn-down window crank. That small but tangible act, slow, slightly creaky turns, one after another, and the glass would obediently slide down with a soft rumble, opening the world to you. And then, an explosion of sensations. Fresh air rushing in with a roar, whipping your hair, rustling your clothes, drowning out the music unless you turned it down in time. It wasn't just a draft, no, it was the very element itself, pouring over you. And with the wind came the smells. Freshly cut grass from roadside fields, damp earth after a recent rain, the faint bite of smoke from someone's chimney, the sharp tang of gasoline from a passing car. You felt everything, not filtered, not sanitized air, but the living breath of the world outside. You weren't sealed in a glass cocoon. Your car was an extension of yourself, and you were an extension of the road. You didn't just feel the wind, you felt every vibration of the engine, running through the steering wheel, through the seat, straight into your bones. Every pebble on the road, every uneven seam of asphalt, it all echoed through your body. This wasn't just control over a machine. This was a dialogue asterisk, between you, your faithful steel companion, and the road unfolding beneath the wheels. The car buzzed, growled, sometimes coughed, and you understood its language, knew what it felt, what it needed. We've grown used to comfort, to isolation. We've hidden behind perfect soundproofing and multi-zone climate control. And in that comfort, we've lost something essential. We lost that intimate, physical connection with the road, with nature. We lost the ability to feel the car, rather than just drive it. Today a car is a soulless means of transportation, taking us from point A to point B. But back then, it was a living creature, breathing with you, responding to your every gesture, every turn of the wheel. If you grew up in those years, this isn't just a distant story, it's a deep, almost tangible memory. A memory of a time when the wind sang its songs right inside the cabin, and every scent was part of the adventure. And now, as you feel this deep bond with your machine, this dialogue with metal and wind, you inevitably begin to notice those who share the road with you. Because back then, the road wasn't just a path. It was a common space for everyone who traveled it. Your car moves steadily forward, familiar British landscapes flashing by outside the window. The wind seems to have quieted, and now all attention shifts to the road itself, and to those who share it with you. You've grown used to this world. A world where every maneuver, every turn, even the smallest slip from the rules can be recorded. Today, the road is watched over by a silent army of invisible eyes, tracking your every move. Every mile laid down with strict precision, leaving no room for human error, only cold accuracy. But if you knew those earlier days, you remember how different it was. There were no ever-present cameras. No constant, suffocating surveillance. The road wasn't a battlefield, it was a space for instinct, for intuition, for an unspoken but very real understanding between drivers. Do you remember how a single glance into the eyes of someone coming the other way could say it all? Respect, recognition, agreement. A difficult turn wasn't about strict rules, it was a dance, needing only common sense and a little courtesy. A short, friendly honk, it wasn't annoyance, it was a greeting. A wave of the hand, not a formality, but gratitude. That was freedom, the feeling that you trusted yourself, and those around you, not the system. And the road back then was filled with stories, born right there on its shoulders. Do you remember how you could simply stop? Not at a faceless megastation, where a machine serves you without a word, but at that old gas pump, where the owner himself, hand smelling of oil and grease, would fill up your car, share a few words, maybe a fresh local tale. Or at a roadside pub, where laughter and the clink of glasses spilled out through the open door, and you knew that inside was more than food. It was a refuge, and perhaps a new story from the locals. These places were alive, not just pit stops, but islands of human connection on the map. We've lost that sense of togetherness on the road. We've lost those genuine, fleeting interactions that made every trip something more than just moving from place to place. Children waving from other cars, pedestrians smiling at the sight of your old model. The road was a space of exchange, not a constant rivalry for position. It was an unwritten code of brotherhood, where everyone knew their role, and everyone was part of one great moving story. If you grew up in those years, this isn't just a distant tale, it's a piercing memory. A memory of how much the human touch mattered, of how the road itself felt alive, not sterile. Today we drive with our eyes glued to screens, surrounded by walls of technology, forgetting that once, every passing car carried a piece of a shared story. And now, as this journey through memory nears its end, it's time to pull over, switch off the engine, and let those moments settle deep within, realizing just what it is we've lost. And that's it. Your faithful companion, your steel soul, has finally come to rest. The engine, still purring so vividly just a minute ago, now falls silent with one last deep exhale. Do you hear it? That faint, almost inaudible creak of cooling metal, the gentle ticking, as if the car whispers one final word before returning from the world of motion to the world of stillness. Silence fills the cabin, a different silence, not the one from the very beginning, but one that carries the echoes of every mile, every adventure. Your hand still rests on the wheel, fingers brushing over the worn, warm rim. And in that moment of stillness, fragments of unforgettable moments flicker in your mind. You see yourself spreading that giant, rustling map across the hood, searching for the way with your companion, laughing at every wrong turn. You hear that almost sacred click of a cassette sliding into place, the hiss giving way to your favorite melody, blending with the landscape outside. You remember rolling down the window, the rush of fresh, real wind carrying the scent of cut grass and freedom. You feel every vibration of the engine, every pebble under the wheels, knowing your car as if it were alive. It was more than just driving, wasn't it? More than old cars and paper maps. It was a whole world. A world where every trip was an adventure asterisk, not just a journey from point A to point B. A world where you felt the car, not just controlled it. A world where the road was a promise of freedom, not a maze of rules and watchful eyes. We didn't just cover miles, we lived them. Every creak, every scent, every glance over the shoulder, each one a part of a greater, living picture. And today, when we look at modern roads, at the lifeless streams of cars rushing somewhere, we realize we didn't just lose an old car or a paper map. We lost an entire world. A world where the road was our dialogue, not our battlefield. A world forever preserved in the choke's squeak and the rustle of an old map. A world that may never return the way it once was, but one that will always remain in our memory. If you grew up in those years, this isn't just a story. It's a piercing memory, alive within each of us who lived it. And if you want these memories to stay alive, if you want to return to that world and share its echoes, stay with us. Let these stories continue to live, to pulse in our hearts, as long as we remember.